me. Could you help me out for a moment, please?
Thanks. I'm a little lost.
What would you do here? You may think you know. You could be right, but you could be wrong. Find out how to keep you safe.
This is a Nick News Special Edition. Stranger Danger.
This show is about knowing the truth and helping yourself. First, the truth. There are close to 50 million kids in America. Every year, about 4,600 are taken by strangers. Of those, all but about 150 are returned to their families. So you see by the numbers that being taken from your family is never, ever going to happen to most of you. Never. And yet, having said that, we think it is your right to know about these things. We think it is your right to be safe. On this program, we will talk about what you can do to protect yourself. To begin with, let's talk about why, if so few kids are taken by strangers, so many kids are scared. Well, partly it's because of a few well-publicized cases, most of which did not have happy endings.
Polly was 12 years old. She was quite a happy girl. She wanted to be an actress, and she wanted to be famous, and she wanted to be on the cover of People magazine.
Polly Klass did appear on the cover of People magazine, but it wasn't a dream. It was a nightmare. Polly had been abducted, kidnapped, taken in the night by a stranger. Polly's abductor was found. He confessed to killing her, but please understand that Polly Klass's abduction was very unusual. It almost never happens that a kid is taken from inside his or her own house. What is more typical is what happened to Sarah Ann Wood.
On August 18th, Sarah wanted to ride her bicycle over to the church. She left the church about 2:30 and began to ride her bike back home.
Sarah never made it home. Within the short distance between the church and her house, Sarah was abducted. We know that because this man, Louis Lint, confessed to taking Sarah and killing her. But he wasn't caught right then. 5 months later, he tried to abduct another girl, 12-year-old Rebecca Savarese.
That day I was walking to school, and I was listening to my Walkman, and this guy just came up behind me. He said, do you see the gun I have? And he showed it to me. I was like, yeah, I see it. And he says, do everything I say, everything will be all right. And I was like, oh my God, this is not happening. And then we walked up here to where his truck was parked, is right where those mailboxes are. He asked me to get into it, and I started to fake an asthma attack. I was going, can I just sit down? He tried to grab for me, and he got my backpack, and I just ran back down the street. I was scared of going into that truck because I knew one thing, that I wouldn't come out. I wouldn't see my family or my friends anymore.
But Rebecca's quick thinking prevented that from happening. After she got away, Rebecca ran to tell grown-ups. Her action meant the police were able to catch the man immediately, the same man who later confessed to killing Sarah Ann Wood.
They made me do a lineup, and he was right there, and I picked him out. I was like, ha, 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 I got you.
Rebecca, first of all, may we call you Becky?
Yes, you may.
Tell me again how you got away from him.
I started faking an asthma attack.
What made you think of that?
Well, my mom and my best friend Jenny, they both have asthma, and once in a while they'll have an asthma attack, and I knew what it looked like.
Are you scared of being abducted, you all? Is it something that worries you?
Or you see it in newspapers or see it on TV or something, you know it could happen to you. There's always a chance.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sick people around, see. It really scares you, though. It scares me, anyway.
But when we look at the numbers, we see that it really doesn't happen that often.
If everybody thinks that, oh, I'm not going to get kidnapped, that's such a rare thing. I'm sure the people who got kidnapped and were on the news and in papers, they probably didn't think, oh, I'm going to get kidnapped.
Well, let's ask one. This guy tried to take Becky. Before that, did you go around thinking I'm going to get kidnapped, I'm going to get taken, or I'm not?
No, I never thought that. I thought that I would just have a perfect, normal childhood.
I can't help but wonder, and probably you all do, is, would you think that fast?
Yeah.
Faking an asthma attack, that's cool. That's very cool.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has helped find 23,160 children over the last 10 years.
In the summer of 1984, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children started what came to be known as the Milk Carton Campaign. They put pictures of missing children on the sides of milk cartons. It helped some kids to be found, but it scared many, many more kids who got up every morning and across the breakfast table stared at the faces of kids who had been taken from their parents. The center stopped the Milk Carton Campaign, but they never stopped working to find missing children. Today, they are a valuable resource for parents and law enforcement agencies. They know a lot, and they want to share what they know.
Good afternoon, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is an organization based in Washington that finds missing children and also works to prevent crimes against children. I'm Ernie Allen. I'm the president of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We get calls from police officers who want help and assistance in missing or exploited child cases. We get calls from families reporting missing children. We get calls from thousands of Americans who have seen a photograph of a missing child and think they know something about that. We distribute photographs of missing kids and information about missing kids over computer networks around the country, so that if a child is abducted in one city and is not in that city anymore, the likelihood of finding them is far greater. We have computer technology to age the photographs of missing children. 38 kids who've been missing more than 2 years have been recovered because of those computer age progressions. The vast majority of these abductions happen on the street. They happen in situations where children are away from home, away from school, where adults can approach children and in most of these cases win the confidence of the child. These kids are like everybody's kids. They are boys and girls, they are young and old, they are black and white. There are 300 of these most serious child kidnappings a year. It's terrible. It's 4 or 5 children a week in the United States. There are 40 or 50 million children in the United States. So the likelihood of any particular child being abducted by a stranger in these most serious cases is very small. One of the problems historically is that we've told kids don't talk to strangers. The real difficulty is that to most kids, the word stranger means somebody scary, somebody ugly or dirty, somebody who looks like they would hurt you. And the reality is that most of these people who are abducting children look pretty much like everybody else. So kids shouldn't focus so much on how somebody looks. They should focus on what they're doing. Adults shouldn't approach kids for directions. Shouldn't ask kids to help them change a tire. You have the right to say no. You should get away from the situation, walk away from him, go in the opposite direction, and then tell somebody. We recommend the buddy system. Go places, walk to school, go to the mall. When you're by yourself, go with other kids, because there's safety in numbers. Parents need to talk to their kids about it, and kids need to talk to their parents about safety before anything ever happens. There are lots of cases out there in which children are victimized and feel like it's their fault. And our message to children is, it's never your fault. You have a right to be safe and a right to be free from adults who would touch you or hurt you in some way. You know, don't feel guilty if somebody does something that you don't feel right about. I think the most important thing is to recognize that every child, every kid is at some risk, that you don't need to live in fear, but you need to be cautious and you need to be prepared.
Please meet Ernie Allen, who is president of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Welcome, Ernie.
Thanks, Wendy.
Ernie, who's at risk? What kinds of children get taken? What age, what sex? What do we know?
Well, we know that all kids are at risk, but we know that 3 out of 4 of the children who are abducted by strangers are girls, and that fully half of all the abduction cases involve kids who are 12 and older. So this is not just a problem that impacts young children. All kids are at risk.
Is there a special kind of kid that's vulnerable?
Well, we've learned a lot from the offenders once we have arrested them and put them away. And we found that offenders target kids who look vulnerable. Children who are alone, children who are down, children who may have low self-esteem, may have problems in their lives. And because so many of these offenders seek kids who are vulnerable, they can play to their needs, they can become their friends, they can win their confidence, and then they victimize them.
So the stranger may not be a stranger.
Well, we have learned that in at least 2/3 of these cases, the person who takes the child is not a stranger in the eye and the mind of the child. We know, for example, that if somebody's name you know, if it's somebody you've talked to for a while, that you've seen before, that person may not be a stranger to you. And we also know that if the person isn't scary looking, if he looks pretty normal and is nice to you, he may quickly cease to be a stranger to you.
Where do most kids get taken from?
Well, most of them are taken from the streets, from public places. And that's because most of these guys first try to win your confidence. They try to become your friend. They become your buddy, or they ask you to help them do something. So you have to keep your guard up. You don't have to be afraid. But what we think is important is that you recognize if someone's approaching you or talking to you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, you think, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. This adult shouldn't be so interested in me. And the best way to avoid being taken is recognizing that situation, staying away from it, and then telling somebody.
Now what about this? What about, I'm 10 years old, pretend, and I've been taking karate lessons, and this guy tries to grab me on the street. Should I try a little of my karate on him?
Well, there are lots of good programs, and there are lots of ways to protect kids, but we think kids protect themselves with their heads. We think the likelihood of an 8 or 9-year-old being able to fend off a 240-pound attacker with karate or judo or whatever technique is not very great.
Well, what about this personal alarm my mom put on me?
Same thing. There are an awful lot of kids out there, an awful lot of families who feel when they buy these things, they're safe, they're protected. Well, one of the problems is it creates too much sense of security, a false sense of security. So I'm not saying any of those things are bad, but first and foremost, kids need to be alert and aware. They need to talk with their families. They need to recognize problems and stay away from them.
What if you do if you're walking down the street, right, and you see somebody else who's getting abducted? What should you do then?
Well, first of all, you should look and see what's happening and get a description and be able to tell somebody. And then secondly, go and tell somebody. Tell an adult. Tell somebody who is as close by as you can. Most kids know 911, so that if your city has a 911 system, you don't have to put a quarter in the phone. Call the police. Tell a trusted adult, but don't just walk away.
What if you are abducted? I mean, is it just all over at that point?
Oh, no, it's not at all. And Becky's case is a great example. It's very important that kids stay calm, that they stay composed, and they look for opportunities. It's just as important then, more important then, that kids not panic and that they always stay alert and look for an opportunity to get away.
There are close to 50 million kids in the U.S. Each year, there are 4,600 reported abductions. Of those, all but 150 kids will be returned home safely.
This is a show about protecting yourself, about growing up safe. You might think you know all about it, but you might know some things wrong. For instance, you may have been told not to tattle on someone or to be respectful to adults. They know what they're doing. But minding the wrong adult could get you in big trouble. Therefore, a kid's best weapon is his or her ability to think and respond in a possibly dangerous situation, knowing that every situation can be different. Think of what follows as a video game and play it with us. Find out what you would do. Now, before we look at the tape, let me point out that all the people you're about to see are actors. Roll the first tape, please.
Hey! Hi, excuse me. Could you come over here a moment, please? Thanks. I'm afraid I'm lost. Can you show me where Sycamore Street is on this map?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's a couple of blocks from here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Michael, what would you have done?
I would have just ran back to where that playground was, told maybe a teacher was there or an adult grown up, and just told them what happened. Just get away as fast as I could.
Let's take a look and see.
Hey! Hi! Excuse me, could you help me out for a moment, please?
Thanks. I'm a little lost. Can you find Sycamore Street on this map?
No, I'll go get a grown-up.
You were right. And what else can we take away from that, Ernie?
Well, there are a couple of lessons. One is you notice the space, the distance that he kept from the car. Even if the kid had gone up to the car and said no, he still would have been vulnerable. So you have to be aware of your space. The second thing is all kids want to be helpful. Everybody wants to be responsive to request and wants to be supportive. But Michael makes a really good point. Go find an adult. Adults should ask adults for help.
Let's take a look at another videotape.
Okay, come on.
Stop! Where are you taking me? I don't want to go! No! Mom! I want my mama!
Yes, Allie.
Right away, she should have said, no, this is not my parent. Get away, this person is a kidnapper. Someone help me.
Okay, let's take a look at the tape.
Okay, come on.
Stop! You're not my daddy! You're not my daddy! No! Stop it! Help!
So, Ernie, Allie was right on with that answer.
Allie was exactly right. We live in a time in which parents sometimes drag their kids out of stores kicking and screaming. So kids need to stay alert and focused and let people around them know exactly what's happening. So they need to keep their wits about them and yell, this man is not my father, he's kidnapping me, so that somebody will see it and somebody will act.
Okay, here's a look at another videotape.
Jimmy, your mother sent me to get you. Now, there's been a little accident, but she's okay. There's nothing to worry about, but she's at the hospital, and I'm supposed to take you there.
Who are you?
I'm Ernie, an old friend of your mother's from high school. Come on, get in. We gotta go. Here you go.
Should he have gotten into the car?
No.
No. What should he have done, Russell?
If that was me, I would have asked him, how does he know my mother? Where does she work? What college did she go to? Because he said he was an old friend from school, so he should know at least what college he went to or what school.
Let's roll the tape and see what happens.
Jimmy, your mother sent me to get you. Now, there's been a little accident, but she's okay. There's nothing to worry about. But she's in the hospital, and I'm supposed to take you there, okay?
What's the code word?
What code word?
My mother would have given you a code word if she wanted you to pick me up. Help!
He knew the kid's name.
Well, kids like to have, and parents like to put kids' names on the back of backpacks and shirts and sweatshirts and jerseys. It's one of the tricks that would-be abductors use to get the confidence of the child. We encourage all families not to do that. Secondly, and a real important example here is that the code word worked. Parents and children can come up with a word, and if somebody who's picking them up doesn't know that word, that's a signal to the child that that person is probably not there on behalf of the mom. It's something that every kid, every family could do.
Okay, let's look at the next videotape.
Hey, you look lost.
I am.
Yeah? Maybe I can help you find your mother.
Okay.
Hey, maybe we should go check out the parking lot.
Okay, she's probably out there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try there.
Who wants to say what they do this time? Allie?
I just say, well, can't we just go to the front desk or something? I wouldn't go out to the parking lot. I would say, well, I don't really know you. I don't think I should get help from someone I don't know.
Okay, let's take a look.
Mommy, where are you?
Ooh, hey, you look lost. Let me help you find your mother. Maybe she's outside.
Excuse me, but I'm lost, and I can't find my mother, and that man over there is trying to get me to go outside. I don't know him.
That kid sort of did everything right, didn't he? He did just what you all said he should do. Yeah, Ernie?
Well, this is something that happens to every kid at some time or another. And whether there's somebody lurking around the next aisle in the store or not, they're absolutely right. The first thing you do is go to find a store clerk, find a security guard, find somebody official, and ask for help.
And how can you find, you can look behind a counter. People who stand behind the counters usually work in those stores. So
Right.
if you're wondering, you know, you may not know what a security guard looks like because they may not be in uniform, but you could certainly go to somebody behind a counter. Okay, let's take a look at the next videotape.
Pretty good. Man, you must be some kind of expert at this, huh?
Thanks.
I mean, I've never even come close to that sport. Hey, I'm out of quarters. Look, why don't we go down to the corner bank and I can get lots of quarters for both of us?
Well, all right, but my mom, she'll be here soon. So we gotta make it quick, all right?
All right, it'll only take 5 minutes. Come on.
All right.
Now, what did that guy do? He came on as like a friend, like a real friend, didn't he? Yeah. Farzal, what should the kid have done?
He should have said, you know, thanks anyway and walked away. Waited for his mother to come.
Michael, what do you think?
I would have just went by the door maybe, wait for my mom, tell somebody, a grown-up that was there.
Okay, let's take a look.
Hey, I'm out of quarters. Look, why don't we go to the corner bank and I can get lots of quarters for both of us?
Here, I'll be right back. Excuse me? There's a man over there, and he wants me to go with him, but I don't even know him.
Ernie, what can you add to that?
This is a real-life example for lots of kids, particularly older kids. The trick of friendship is the come-on for a lot of offenders who prey on children. This kind of behavior should send up a red flag for kids. Why is this adult so interested in me? Why is he paying attention to me? Why is he offering me money? And kids need to be alert to that because, again, in most of these cases, kids aren't dragged off kicking and screaming. They are literally tricked into accompanying the individual who then later victimizes them.
But Ernie, are we teaching kids, I mean, you say, why would this adult be interested in me? And yet there are adults who are interested in kids for very fine reasons.
Right.
How do we teach kids to tell the difference?
Well, we teach them to focus on the behavior and to question it. Kids don't have to be disrespectful. You can be respectful. But one, it's appropriate to think maybe this is something other than it appears.
Secondly, it's appropriate to tell somebody, to make sure that your parents know. I mean, there may be adults who are legitimately interested, but again, it's a matter of children being alert and aware, not afraid, but aware of the fact that, again, adults should ask adults for help. Adults shouldn't shower kids with gifts, particularly if this is an adult that you've never met before and you don't know. Again, it's not necessarily suggesting that he's a molester or an abductor, but it should make a kid alert. We think kids need to focus on not so much who the person is. This is a pretty normal looking guy, but on the behavior. And should an adult in a game room situation like that be so interested in a kid, particularly a kid by himself, who therefore may be one of those vulnerable kids we talk about.
Okay, here's a look at another videotape.
Hi, I'm with store security, and we've been experiencing a lot of shoplifting lately. Now, I'm not saying you're a suspect, but I would like to ask you some questions.
I was just looking, really.
That's fine. You can come back and look some more, but I would like to talk to you. You might know something, okay? All right. Just come this way.
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, the guy shows up, he flashes a badge, he's got on a suit and a tie, he looks like a security guard.
You gotta go maybe to the front desk and ask them, does he work here? Is he really a security guard here?
Okay, let's take a look at the tape.
Hi, I'm with store security, and we've been experiencing a lot of shoplifting lately. Now, I'm not saying you're a suspect, but I would like to ask you a few questions, okay?
I didn't take anything. There's a guy in the other room that says he's from store security, and he wants me to go with him.
So she picked up the phone, called and checked. Ernie, what can we learn from this one?
Well, there are lots of people out there that can get badges, that can look official, that can buy uniforms. She responded in exactly the right way. You go to somebody within the store, somebody who's working at the store, and check first.
But that is a tough one, because that really brings into question the idea of, does a kid have a right to say no to a big guy in a suit and tie with a badge?
We think it's really important that kids understand that they have power. They have the right to say no. You don't automatically have to do something just because an adult says it. Again, get away, tell somebody, check first. That's really the lesson here.
We've talked a lot today about what kids can do to protect themselves, but protecting kids is everyone's responsibility. Kids need to know that. Kids need to know that they can trust their own feelings and that they can talk to grown-ups about their problems and their feelings. Kids need to know that we will listen to you and we will believe you. One more thing kids need to know. Each kid needs to know that she or he is a special person. You deserve to feel safe, and you deserve to be safe. Goodbye for Nick News.